Hi guys! So today I wanted to talk a little bit about the trip prep that we're doing for our Go Roughly Around the World fundraiser adventure. So the trip is starting on March 5th, so we still have a little bit, I think it's about like 80 days left. I have to go and check the countdown clock. So we are getting everything sorted as best that we can now so that, it doesn't come as such a rush at the end, right when we're trying to leave. So the key thing are the bikes. So I'm sitting in the moto port right now at our house, and we don't have any bikes here right now. They are actually at the shop. So there are a few things that we needed to get done beforehand. So our bikes are 2013. Mine's the G650GS, and I think it has like 60,000 miles on it right now. So it's had a lot of life, and it still has a lot of life left, I hope. And I think it's gonna be able to do fine throughout this trip. But we've been noticing that we've been having a few more problems lately with the bikes. So we just wanna make sure that everything is sorted as best as it can be before we set off. So the first thing is, I think I talked about this in a previous rough cut about the battery acid leakage that I had on my bike. So that was cleaned up. They did a whole, they took it all apart at the shop, they cleaned it up, they replaced a few tubes that the acid had leaked through, but we think that there was one other that they might have missed, because we went to Mexico a couple of weeks ago, and just a short trip there and back, and on the way back, by the time we got back to the house, I noticed that there was a little bit of oil on the side of the engine. And so we said, okay, we've got to take it in. So the bike is now in the shop being reviewed again, just to make sure if there are any still little pieces where the acid might have gotten into the tubes, they need to replace those so that everything is good. The second issue that we noticed on this most recent trip back to Mexico was my brake light. My brake light has been a problem for a while. What happens is it stays in the on position, so it looks like I am continually braking. So that's obviously really dangerous, and I don't like riding behind Greg in that case, because people behind me won't be able to tell when I'm actually stopping. So we needed to get that fixed, and so the preliminary result for the brake light issue was the metal fixture that houses the brake bulb. It's gotten loose over time, so it's not like clicking in place properly. I think the G650GS, the bulb there, it's got like the two settings, and it's got to click into place so that you can have it on and off, or on or running. It's gotten loose, so the mechanic has been able to tighten it a little bit. We're gonna test it out again over Christmas on our next trip before we head off, to see if that has solved the problem. If it hasn't, then we're gonna have to get like the whole back end replaced by BMW, because it's not like you can just replace that fixture. You got to like replace the whole back part. I don't necessarily want to have to do that, but if it still is a problem on this next trip, then we're gonna have to do that. One good thing that actually has been solved is my ABS issue. Thank you, Dean. Dean helped out, and he provided like the measurements that we needed for the plate for the ABS, which was what was causing the problem. So I think I told you guys before that I've had this issue when we were back in New Orleans. We had gone on a trip in Louisiana, and I didn't notice what was going on, because I was riding and my speedometer was telling me that I was going like 70 miles per hour. And we were on the freeway, and I kept noticing like I was passing everybody. I was like, what's going on? Why is everybody driving so slow today? And so we get a little bit out of town, and we pull over, and Greg tells me that like he said, I'm gonna have to pull over to pee soon, so just like keep it till like 70, 75. And I was like, what are you talking about? I haven't even gone like over 70. He's like, you've been going like 90, 95 on this whole stretch. And I was like, why didn't you tell me that I was going so fast? And he was like, well, I didn't want to be a pussy and like say that like you were going so fast, and it was fast for me. But it turns out that it was the speedometer connected to the ABS. The ABS was off, and so it was causing my speedometer to underrate how fast I was going. And we were able to test that. Like, we did this thing where we both set off. I told him, he told me when he hit 60, and then when I hit 60, I put my hand up, and we were just completely off. So that was like that first experience of realizing that, hey, something is wrong. Yeah, I noticed that the RPMs were really high, but it just didn't all click because I was just so focused on the speedometer, and the speedometer was saying it was 70 miles per hour. I was going the speed limit. Luckily, I didn't get pulled over, but that's another story. So it happened again, and when we went to Mexico just now, because we hadn't sorted out the issue yet, and we were going down to the coast, and it was nice straightaway, and you don't notice the issue here so much in Guatemala, or at least where we are, because you're not like going at high speeds. So we were going down to the coast, and again, it was like, it was probably like 70, 75 miles per hour was the speed limit, and I was just booking it. And again, Greg was like, you're going really fast. And at that point, like I realized the RPMs were really high, and my bike was struggling. And so yeah, it was the ABS issue. So we brought it, now that the bike is in the shop here in Panajachel, they already told us that, yeah, they've been able to sort out that issue, so that shouldn't be a problem anymore. I apologize for my chickens. They are just over there. They've just laid their eggs for the morning, so they have their egg song going on, so I apologize. The other thing that we're trying to get sorted is our Moto Breeze. So we've had the Moto Breeze for like 2 years or something like that, and we've never found that it works well, or works at all, really. At the end of a day, like the chain doesn't really look lubed. Like as much as Moto Breeze says like it's not supposed to look so like chunky with oil, it's supposed to be lubricated. We've noticed that that hasn't really been the case, and I've had to go in the evenings and actually lube the chains manually. We just assumed that the Moto Breeze wasn't working. And I know Greg sort of like put it in some different places. Before we used to have the canister of the oil under the seat. And we thought, well, maybe like it's empty. And so we'd have to open it up, remove it and whatever. But no, we realized that the level hadn't gone down. So what Greg did is he got our metal workshop to create these brackets so that we could put the canisters on the outside of the bikes rather than under the seat. So we can really sort of see where the levels are. And again, after we mounted it, we still noticed that like nothing was really happening. The oil level wasn't going down. So I told Greg, take a video of what's going on with our bikes and like where you have it like placed, and ask Moto Breeze what the deal is and why it's not working, because like this is a really great invention. Like I hate having to, at the end of a long day, having to lube the chains or stopping and lubing the chains. It's a pain putting it on the center stand and doing all of that. So he did the video, he sent it to Moto Breeze, and they got back to us right away. And they sort of asked like, well, where do you have like the intake tube that's supposed to bring in the air to push the oil out? And for my bike, so my bike runs hot, and it's always run hot, and they say that there's nothing wrong with it, but it gets so hot sometimes that it'll like burn the inside of my leg. So we created a heat shield to divert that heat, so it wasn't like right on my thigh. So it's like this little metal plate that's just on the side there. And so what Greg did is he put the tube just right under that, and that's where that intake tube was for the Moto Breeze. So it turns out what they told us is that it needs to be in a place that's really, it's not going to be disturbed. And so they suggested as far in front of the bike as possible, so like under the beak or that area. So we have, they were gracious enough, and they asked us if we needed some additional tubing, and we said yes, because we've tried to get some more tubing here, and it's been tough. But so they are sending us some new tubing so that we can put it, so we can have more of a length so that it can get to the front of the bike, and then we're going to try that out. We should get it in the next week or so, and we're going to try it. And they also gave us some more of those little felt pads where the applicator is, so that because those get used up over time, and we'll have those for the trip as well. So Moto Breeze was great, and it really was user error that we didn't notice like where it was and didn't place it properly. And so it's I'm really excited to see when we get the tubing how it actually works. Few other things that need to get done is I need a new back tire. I run the Heidenau's on my bike, which I really like because they are a good off-road, on-road tire, but they are getting worn. At least the back one is. The front one I think still has a little bit of life left. And really I didn't want to have to change it until Mexico City, but I think that we're going to have to get it done in Guatemala City. So maybe after this Christmas break, we're going to get a new back tire on there. And I've really liked the Heidenau's generally. It does have that nice thick strip in the middle, which I find when it's raining, it can be a little bit slippery, and I just have to be a little bit more careful. I can't take a corner really fast if it's wet on the ground. So that's just something that I know about those tires, and then so I'm just I compensate for that. But I've been really happy with them. They last a long time. They can be expensive in certain areas, but here it's really not so bad. So I think we'll get them done here, and then we'll see what happens when we get to Europe, if we need to get them changed again there. So the tires are something that will get done probably in January. The other thing that I noticed on the last trip to Mexico was that it was just something that has happened before, that when I have the heated grips on, they get stuck. And I think it's because it just heats up, and over time, I think just the heated grip itself, it causes the throttle to stay in the on position. So like you have to manually push it to turn it off. And yeah, that's not a safe way to be riding. And like at the moment that you turn off your heated grips, give it a few minutes, and after it cools down, then it's fine again. But it was really cold when we were riding through the mountains here on our last trip, and so I had them on full in the morning, and yeah, I just had that problem again. So yeah, so we replaced that heating element that's inside that expands, I guess, when it gets hot over a long period of time. So we might have to get that replaced again and try it out. I'm not sure. So that's just something that we'll have to. I don't know if the guys here in Panajachel will be able to sort that, or we'll have to look at a BMW dealer and see what they suggest. The other cool thing that's coming is we are getting the Atlas throttle locks. That's going to be really cool for me because, you know, when you're riding, I'm sure people who ride in the States a lot on the freeways, the throttle lock can be really useful because having to hold the throttle the whole time, especially on my bike, where there's a lot of vibration, like over 75 miles per hour or so, and it gets tiring, especially when you're just driving straight all the time. Here, I don't really need it. It wouldn't make sense because the roads are too windy here for it to be useful. So we did reach out to Atlas Throttle Lock and ask them if we could get one and try it out. So they were really good, and they said sure, definitely, and they're sending out one for me and for Greg so we can try them out. And I've never used a throttle lock before. I know Atlas Throttle Lock has a lot of good reviews out there, and people have said that it's one of the best ones. So that's why we reached out and sort of asked about it. But I think that it's going to be helpful on those long stretches, and like things like being able to reach back and just check on Moxie. That's also going to be a good one. And for Greg, when he's riding, like he's got one of the GoPro cameras on his throttle side, so on the right side, and so he has it like sort of facing me sometimes so that we can do like ride-by shots, so that you can sort of see Moxie while we're going past. But it's tough for us to maintain our speed a lot because he'll have to let go of the throttle to sort of press the GoPro. So this way he can just keep the throttle lock on, we can just maintain our speed, and we can ride side by side. And that's gonna be a lot better than what we've been doing now, because we just do that thing where, okay, let's go, 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 and then one goes faster, one goes slower, and then we just miss the shot. So, and that obviously gets frustrating over time, especially when it's hot out. So a throttle lock is gonna be really useful for that. As for luggage, I think that I have everything sorted except for my pannier tank bags. Greg thinks that my Wolfman pannier tank bags are going to be too small. I think that they're like 6 liters. And they have the zipper, which I love because it's just so much easier to like take things out rather than like a roll top. But he thinks that it's going to be too small, and he's right. You know, like I think about, so I use those pockets for mainly Moxie stuff, and for when we have like snacks and stuff like that, I can put them in. But for Moxie's thing, I was thinking about it more and more, especially when it comes to her food. She's like most dogs, like she can have a sensitive stomach if you switch her food too quickly. So the idea is going to be to have at least like 3 to 4 days worth of kibble that we know that she likes along the way, so that if we get into another country, we can't find the food that she normally has. That gives us 3 or 4 days worth so that we can mix it with whatever food is there, so to slowly introduce it. And that's going to be the plan. But 3 to 4 days worth of kibble for my 75-pound Moxie, it's quite a big bag. And that would definitely take up one side of my Wolfman pannier tank bag. Greg has the giant loop Revelstokes on his bike on the front as pannier tank bags, and those are like 16 liters or something, so they have a lot of capacity. And they do have the roll up top, which, like I said, like the zipper is a lot easier, but if there's nothing out there that I really have loved on the market that has a zipper but a bigger capacity, that would work for me. So what we're thinking is that we'll get another set of Revelstokes so that I can use those as well. That would give me 16 liters on either side. So that definitely is going to be enough space for Moxie's food and for all of her things, and some when we go shopping and for camping, that will be a great place to have it. And again, like having more of the weight up front, especially when I've got all of Moxie on the back, is really going to be a key thing to making sure that the bike feels balanced. So that's the last piece of like luggage that I'll really need for this trip. Because really, we could do the trip right now with what we've got. We've got everything that we need. We do these trips pretty frequently in terms of like cross borders and things like that. Yes, this is going to be 18 months and it's going to be a lot longer. But the idea sort of still stays the same. And we really don't want to be like packed to the gills for this trip. Like when we did the north to south from LA to Chile, I had like a 90 liter duffel on the back of my bike, and it was huge. And like, again, I was a new rider at the time, so that was really like intimidating. And it prevented me from doing a lot of like, even the easy off-road, because I just felt so overloaded. And it's funny because we get travelers that come down from the States or up from South America when they're doing their north to south trip, and we'll sort of see them, if they're coming from the States and they're coming down, it's normally by like Guatemala, where they realize that there's things that they have never used that they've packed along, and it's just taking up space. So a lot of the times this is the place to start purging. The people who come up from South America, like they're dialed in. They know exactly what they need and how to pack it. So they're sorted. We're going to be doing I think it's about a 2-week trip around Guatemala for the Christmas break. So I think from like the 23rd into January. And we're really going to do this as like a trial run to see how everything packs, the space that we need. We're going to be doing a lot of camping on this one as well. So we'll see how everything stands up, and that still gives us time to make any changes that we need. If there's other gear or things that we're missing that we think that we should have, or things that we can remove from our side cases and from the luggage, that's going to be the time to do it. I'm hoping that this trip is going to really prove that we are ready to go, because I am dying to leave. It's that thing where we've been planning this since like June is sort of when we like finally like started and said that we were going to do this. So it's been months now, and I'm seeing everybody else on their trips. I know in North America it's getting cold now, but people are still talking about like their next trip that they're gonna do, and people showing from the summer and what they've been doing. And it just really gets me excited, and it makes me want to go as well. But at least we're gonna have this Christmas trip that we're gonna do and try out the stuff that we've got. And then, yeah, then it's gonna be March 5th is gonna be our launch. I'll save what we're doing for prep and all of the other things in terms of getting ready for the trip for another rough cut. But this is, the stuff for the bike is really key. And we want to make sure that it is, that we've got everything that we need so that when we're leaving from here, we feel like we're not missing something, because I think that would be a tough thing to be thinking like, okay, we're going towards the States. If we need something, we can get it, but then it's not it's not sort of integrated with everything that we've got now. I'd rather start off having what we need to feel comfortable that we can do this trip, and 18 months is going to be awesome. Thanks guys for hanging out. If you have any questions, just let me know, and we'll talk to you soon.